So tell me about how much space you have here and how many chickens do you have?
Oh gosh. It's the one question their chicken keeper wants to answer.
I'm Kelly from Homemade, Texas, and today I'm visiting Joanna's farm, a sustainable homestead farm in Kyle, Texas.
I'm Joanna and I'm the owner and operator at Joanna's farm here in Kyle, Texas. I grew up in a little village in Poland and I lived there from birth to 8 years old, and we had pretty much every animal you could imagine there. Horses, cows. We raised all of our own food, so chickens were a huge part of our diet. We grew all of our own crops like potatoes and cabbage, tomatoes, things like that. And when I was 8 years old, we moved to the US and we moved into the suburbs where it was completely different. We didn't grow any of our own food, didn't keep any chickens or rabbits or anything along those lines. And all of our food came from the grocery store. And I noticed that it was extremely bland. So anytime I would go back and visit Poland and my grandma just made some simple chicken soup, it was so flavorful and so delicious. And all she had to do was go into the backyard and grab a chicken and just make this soup. So when I would come back here, I really started thinking about growing my own food and raising my own chickens so that I could have that really flavorful, delicious, nutritious food that we used to eat back in Poland that most people here don't really even have access to. So the reason I moved out here to Kyle, when I'm actually outside of the city limits a little bit, was because here I would have the freedom to raise chickens. The place I lived in Austin, it was a condo community, so we couldn't have chickens. Even we could grow a little bit of our own food, but that was actually kind of hard to do because of the shared common space that we had. But here I have chickens, the neighbors have chickens. There's a lot of people in this community that raise their own animals. In addition to, I think I've seen donkeys and sheep and all kinds of things out here. I'm outside of city limits, but I'm very close to a lot of communities that are densely populated, and that's actually a huge advantage for me because I run a small compost collection program with the communities here. So I collect a ton of food scraps and I use that to feed my chickens. If I was farther out in the country, I wouldn't have access to that. So I partner with basically anybody I can find. I have 6 to 10 families in the development down the street that do food scraps for me. I partner with a restaurant in downtown Kyle called Koi Chinese food. I partner with the Hayes County Food Bank. They've been wonderful with saving all of their food scraps that would go into the trash otherwise and providing that for my chickens. And then any coffee shop that I can partner with. I have Goldilocks Coffee and Devil Dog Coffee Shop sometimes bring me their grounds and I use that for my garden. So they've been really wonderful in keeping so much food out of the landfill. So I have a little bit over an acre here and I probably have over 100 chickens right now. I started with 15. And that slowly kind of grew to 100, but that also includes the meat chickens that I have, which I don't keep year round. Those are just certain months of the year. The balance between my layers and my meat chickens, I would say it's about 50-50. I have maybe about 50 egg layers and 50 meat chickens at any one time. Sometimes I'll do a little bit more meat chickens at one time depending on what the demand is, because I do sell some of the meat chickens to the community. So I process less than 1,000 chickens a year right now. The rules in Texas allow you to do 1,000 at your facility without having to go through a USDA approved type facility. And I'm actually way under 1,000 right now. I'll do maybe like 50 a month every couple of months here. So it's just a couple hundred a year at this point, but I'm just starting out. So I'm hoping in the future to do a little bit more. Yeah, so as far as the meat chickens go, I use those to feed my family. And then anything extra that I have, I use that to help the community have access to local, really fresh meat. So my egg layers serve multiple purposes. I use them to have eating eggs. I use them for hatching eggs, especially for specific breeds that I hold. And then after the egg layers don't lay eggs anymore, I can also use those as meat chickens, and those are called stewing chickens. And those are the most flavorful chickens that I think we can probably get. They're also the more challenging ones to cook, which is why a lot of people don't eat their egg layers for meat. But it's totally possible to just really use and respect the whole chicken throughout its entire life. Every living thing is part of kind of the system here, and every living thing has a purpose, and usually part of that is to feed another living being. So we'll one day feed the worms. The chickens are here to feed us, and it's just important to give them a respectful life while they are here and care for them properly. So I do have a garden, which takes up a considerable amount of space at this point. It seems to be growing every single year. Right now, it's just a garden for my personal needs, just because I'm not that great at growing things. But I am hoping once I get a little bit better about growing things and kind of knowing when to plant everything when, I'll be able to offer a little bit of produce along with the chicken meat and the eggs to the community. And if not selling them, at least be able to donate to the food bank to kind of have this really nice cycle of they give me the food scraps, I turn it into some sort of food, and I'm able to donate it back to the food bank, and they can feed families that need it.
Today, Joanna is hosting a class on how to process a chicken. Her students have arrived from as far away as San Antonio and Killeen to learn how to butcher a chicken and prepare it for cooking. Her students today are all chicken keepers, but none have ever processed a chicken before.
The processing classes have been something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. Today was my very first one for adults. I'm planning on hosting several more throughout the year for both adults and for kids. And partially because I myself went to a processing class, I want to say 2014, at another farm here in Austin. And they kind of showed me that it was totally possible to do meat chickens, egg chickens, and do everything yourself on your own, even in a little backyard, just with minimal equipment and with minimal machinery, and you can just do it in a way that isn't as violent as a factory farm would be. The nice thing about processing chickens in this type of an environment is if you are emotional about it and like you need a longer time to say goodbye to the chicken, you can take as much time as you need because there isn't a ton of machinery running and not everything is timed where you need to do how many ever chickens per minute. Like you can really take your time with the chicken. I think that makes the process a little bit different. And I think it makes it more accessible to just any family that wants to raise their own food. So the processing classes are one to teach people how to process chickens, but also my ultimate hope is that everybody who takes the class will kind of start processing chickens on their own and then also teach their community how to do it and advocate in the community for keeping meat chickens and even egg chickens so that everybody can be a little bit more self-sufficient. I mean, some of the participants traveled all the way from San Antonio or all the way up from Killeen just because there aren't any processing classes available up there. So they'll be able to take this knowledge back to their communities, share with them, and then hopefully encourage other people to raise their own food and process it in a gentle and humane way. That's really what my hope is, that more people are able to do this and it's more accessible to people. I have an acre here, but I could easily, I realized, do chickens on a quarter of this space, if not less. If you manage them properly, you can really do chickens with even very small plots of land and not bother your neighbors or not have them be a health hazard in any way. You just have to know how to manage them properly. And one of the ways to do that is to just visit other farms or other chicken keepers and see how they're doing it. The neighborhoods up the street are all HOA regulated, and I get a lot of visitors here, especially families that bring their kids here, and they come around and they tour my farm and they look at the chickens. I'm like, wow, these chickens aren't very loud, they're quiet, they recycle all of your food scraps, and a lot of them say to me, wow, I wish I could have 4 or 5 chickens in my backyard, but the HOA doesn't allow it. And I think it would be a benefit to the HOA communities to allow people to at least have a couple of chickens, test out how it goes, because they can recycle food scraps, especially in communities like the one up the street, which does not have a compost collection or food recycling program. And kids love chickens. There's a way to keep them where everything is just neat and organized. I know a lot of people that have beautiful coops. And I know there's a lot of people in these communities who wish they could do this. They just don't have the permission from the HOA to do so. So I think it would just be a really great benefit if the HOA started permitting all of this, or if we had some sort of rules that allowed people in any community to keep chickens. And that's why it's so important to also have farms that are close to urban communities so people can come and see firsthand what does chicken keeping look like. And there are a lot of the times they're pleasantly surprised, especially with pasture poultry, the way I do the tractors, since the chickens are constantly moving to a new location. There's no smell, which is kind of the biggest thing that people worry about. Oh, the chicken smell, and there's no smell. There's really nothing. It's just a really pleasant experience. And I think a lot of people, especially in highly regulated communities, want to be able to have that. There was a huge uptick in chicken keeping during the pandemic, and part of that was people realized that we need to be a little bit more self-sufficient with everything. And there used to be a time when most families would have a couple backyard chickens just for eggs, a little bit of meat, and to recycle their scraps. Now, most of our community's food is located at the grocery store. So if you can't get to the grocery store, there's some sort of supply chain issue, it's really hard for people to get food, and it's kind of scary at that point. But if everybody was allowed to keep just a handful of chickens in their backyard, I think that would put us at ease in a lot of ways when emergencies or supply chain issues happen.
Do you do this full time? Do you chicken full time?
I do not chicken farm full time yet. That is kind of the dream that I'm going towards, which I would love to do. So this is just kind of something I do because I love food, I love self-sufficiency, I love teaching other people that there are ways to raise their own food, that they don't have to rely on the grocery store. And it's just, I mean, such a good cycle, I think, to have chickens as part of your I guess you could say, household.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified when we post new content, and find us on the web at homemadetexas.org.